You are not bad with money. Your brain was never built to make you rich. It was built to keep you safe, fed, and comfortable. Right now. That is exactly why so many people stay broke, without understanding why. You are not struggling because you have no discipline. You are struggling because you are fighting a modern financial world, with a brain wired for survival. Studies suggest that around 40% of what we do every day is not a conscious choice at all. It is habit, repetition, and automatic behavior running in the background. That means a big part of your financial life is being shaped by routines you barely notice anymore. Wealthy people are not always more disciplined than you. Many of them have just automated boring behaviors so well that their money grows without constant effort. Their systems are doing the work. Their willpower no longer has to do. Every time you have to choose between spending and saving, your brain burns energy. Once that energy drops, you start choosing what feels easy instead of what is actually smart. That is why tired people often make expensive decisions without even noticing it. The most expensive decisions are often not giant mistakes. They are small, convenient choices made when your brain is tired. So if you want more money, the answer is not always more motivation. Sometimes the answer is building a life that asks less of your willpower. Let's start with the first unsexy habit. Eat the same meals every week. The average person makes an exhausting number of food-related decisions every day. What should I cook? What should I order? What do I still have? What sounds good tonight? Those decisions look harmless, but they quietly drain mental energy. By the end of the day, your brain is too tired to choose the cheap and healthy option. That is when delivery apps win. That is when random grocery trips happen. That is when you spend more, just because thinking feels harder than buying. That is how small food decisions quietly become a money problem. But when you repeat 4 or 5 meals every week, something powerful happens. You remove friction from your life. You know what to buy, you know what to cook, and you know what your food will probably cost. That does not make life boring. It makes life easier to control. A lot of people think freedom means endless choice, but in real life, too much choice is often just another form of stress. The second habit is this. Do not buy more groceries until your fridge is almost empty. The average family throws away a shocking amount of food every year, not because they are careless, but because modern life makes it easy to forget what they already bought. Food gets pushed to the back, leftovers get ignored, produce quietly dies in the drawer. Once that becomes normal, waste stops feeling like waste. It starts feeling like part of life. That is when money begins disappearing in ways that no longer feel serious. There is also something psychological happening when your fridge is packed. Your brain sees abundance and becomes less careful. When everything looks full, you feel like you have plenty. That false sense of plenty makes you more likely to buy even more. But when you force yourself to use what you already have, you train a completely different mindset. You stop acting like new things are always the answer. Finishing what is already in your home creates a different kind of satisfaction. It teaches your brain that enough can actually feel good. The third habit sounds backwards at first. Do not automatically buy everything in bulk. Buying in bulk looks responsible. It feels like the smart, organized thing to do. But a lot of the time, bulk shopping is not based on your real life. It is based on a fantasy version of yourself. You imagine the future version of you who will cook every meal, use every ingredient, stay organized, and never let anything go bad. But that future version of you often does not exist on schedule. So the giant bag sits there. The avocados rot, the snacks get overconsumed, the skincare expires, and the deal becomes waste. Sometimes buying less is smarter than buying cheaper. Saving money is not about feeling efficient in the store. It is about wasting less after you get home. That is where the real difference is made. The fourth habit is one that most people misunderstand. Make coffee at home, but make it feel special. A lot of people try to save money by removing every little pleasure from their life. At first, that feels mature. But your brain does not handle constant deprivation very well. When life starts to feel too restricted, your mind looks for relief somewhere else. A lot of the time, that relief ends up costing even more. Maybe you skip the coffee shop all week. Then you reward yourself with a bigger impulse purchase that erases the money you thought you saved. That is why the smarter move is not to remove every joy. It is to redesign it. Buy good beans. Use a mug you love. Slow the moment down and turn it into a ritual instead of a sacrifice. Your brain still gets comfort, but at a much lower price. The fifth habit matters more than people realize. Never shop just to kill time. A huge amount of spending has nothing to do with real need. It starts with boredom, restlessness, or the feeling that you need a little hit of something. You open shopping apps because you are tired, and you walk through stores because you want distraction. Even when you tell yourself you are just looking, your brain is not treating it like harmless browsing. It is treating it like possible reward. Once your brain connects boredom with shopping, the pattern gets stronger. Every quiet moment starts feeling like an excuse to spend. That is how spending becomes emotional, automatic, and strangely comforting. You are not buying a product anymore. You are buying a mood change. If you want to keep more money, protect your free time the same way you protect your paycheck. Unstructured boredom often turns into unnecessary spending. Replace that loop with something that gives your brain dopamine without draining your account. Go walk, go lift, learn something, build something, read something, create something. Your brain needs stimulation. It just does not need to get it from spending. The sixth habit sounds plain, but it is powerful. Live with more structure. Routine feels boring to a lot of people, but routine is one of the strongest shields against impulsive money decisions. The more predictable your life is, the fewer random decisions you have to make. The fewer random decisions you make, the less room your impulses have to take over. A lot of bad spending is not really about greed. It is about chaos. When you are mentally scattered, physically tired, emotionally overloaded, and always reacting to life at the last second, you become much more vulnerable to convenience spending. You order food, buy things, and book little comforts because your mind is looking for relief from disorder. Sometimes you are not buying the item. You are buying a break from the feeling of being overwhelmed. That is why a structured life quietly saves money. Stability lowers the need for expensive emotional escapes. The seventh habit is especially important in modern life. Simplify your beauty and skincare routine as much as possible. Our brains are naturally drawn to complicated solutions. We tend to assume that if something has 10 steps, it must be better than something with 4. Psychologists sometimes call this complexity bias. We trust complicated systems because they feel more serious and more advanced. But complicated routines are often the first ones to collapse. You buy too much. You use half of it. You lose consistency and eventually throw products away. A smaller routine usually works better because it is easier to stick with. The routine you actually follow will always beat the expensive routine you abandon. The same is true far beyond skincare. Simple systems often look unimpressive, but they survive real life. The eighth habit is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Stop being afraid to repeat outfits. Most people think others notice what they wear far more than they actually do. In reality, most people are busy thinking about themselves. A lot of clothing purchases are not driven by real need. They are driven by the fear of being seen as repetitive, boring, or behind. But the truth is simple. The more often you wear something, the more value you get out of it. That is how smart spending really works. It is not always about finding the cheapest thing. It is often about fully using what you already own. Style is not buying more and more. Style is learning how to feel confident with less. The ninth habit may be the most boring of all. Spend 3 minutes a day looking at your budget. Most people avoid their numbers because numbers feel restrictive, stressful, judgmental, and exhausting. But what you refuse to look at will quietly control you. Money becomes dangerous when it disappears without your awareness. Tracking your spending is not about punishing yourself. It is about giving your brain real feedback. Once your brain starts seeing the truth, behavior begins to shift. Awareness does what guilt usually cannot. You do not need to stare at spreadsheets for an hour. You just need a small daily moment where your spending stops being invisible. That is often enough to cut waste without forcing yourself to become a completely different person. You just stop lying to yourself in small ways. That alone changes more than people expect. A lot of financial problems are not caused by stupidity. They are caused by inattention. The 10th habit is the most powerful one in the entire list. Pay yourself first. Most people try to save whatever is left at the end of the month. The problem is that for most people, there is rarely much left. If money sits in your checking account, your brain treats it like available money. It starts building spending plans around a number that was supposed to be helping your future. So, move money out as soon as you get paid. Send it somewhere slightly harder to touch and treat that transfer like a real obligation. Do not frame it as extra. Frame it as non-negotiable. Your brain is much less tempted by money it cannot easily see. Money that feels less available gets spent less often. That is the real secret behind a lot of wealth building. It is not perfect discipline. It is smart distance. The most financially stable people are not always superheroes. They just know their weaknesses and build systems around them. They know that when they are tired, they will choose convenience. So they make good decisions before they get tired. They know that when money looks accessible, it feels spendable. So they move it before temptation has time to speak. They know that motivation comes and goes. That is why they stop building their future around motivation. That is what most people miss about money. Wealth is rarely built in dramatic moments. It is built in ordinary moments, repeated over and over again, when no one is watching and nothing feels exciting. A luxury car is not the habit. A strong bank account is not the habit. Those are just the visible results of a life built on quiet, boring, repeatable behaviors that protected money from impulse. The most dangerous expenses are not always the big flashy ones. The most dangerous expenses are the little leaks that feel normal. A food delivery here, a late-night order there, a small subscription you forgot about, an emotional purchase after a bad day, a discount that tricks you into spending more than you planned. None of these feel life-changing on their own, but repeated often enough, they become the reason nothing grows. They quietly eat the future while pretending to be harmless. That is why your brain can keep you poor while making everything feel reasonable. It always has a story ready. It is just one time. It is only a few dollars. This month was stressful. Next month I will do better. That is how money disappears, not in one grand collapse, but in 100 tiny justifications. The hard truth is that your brain is trying to protect your present self. But if you let it run unchecked, it can slowly weaken your future self. The good news is that you do not need to fight your brain every day. You just need to stop designing your life in a way that makes overspending easy. Less decision-making, more automatic systems, less impulse, more structure, less temptation, more distance. The people who quietly build wealth are usually not living magical lives. They are just repeating simple behaviors for long enough that the results become hard to ignore. Maybe that is the biggest shift of all. Maybe the answer is not becoming a more motivated person. Maybe the answer is finally seeing how your brain has been setting traps for you all along. Once you can see the trap, you can stop stepping into it. Wealth is not built through rare moments of inspiration. It is built through small, unsexy habits that work even on the days you do not feel like being your best self. That may be the most powerful financial decision you ever make.